Man, I'm so glad you're with us today. We've got a great journey to take together this morning. I hope you'll come with me because I want you to get a revelation today. I say this almost every week, and today is no exception. I want you to walk out different, a different person than you were when you walked in this morning. And I don't hold that just for you because I believe there's something short in your world. I hold that about you because I hold that for myself. I believe that God is exactly who he says that he is. Sometimes my circumstances or my situations blur my vision a little bit, change my mindset a little bit. I got to reshift. I've got to realign my mind with the plan and purpose of God for my life. But I believe every time we come to him with hearts surrendered, with expectations appropriate to a God who created all the universe, I believe that he is not just able, but he's willing to do in us everything he says that he can do. And I hope you'll go with me to that place today because I believe that it's for you right here, right now, today. You know, this weekend I was, on Friday and Saturday, I was up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Pastors Troy and Penny Maxwell, who many of you might know. Pastor Penny's been here for women's meetings before. She'll be here again this week for women's conference. She's a phenomenal speaker, amazing woman of God. You're going to love her. Pastor Troy came to our encounter conference last summer. He was fantastic. I would love to have him back again. And they were not just great guests to have speaking into our worlds. They're just great people. So as we met them, they said, hey, they're about 5 times, maybe more bigger than us in terms of church size and experience. And they said, hey, anything we can do to help you, you just let us know. So Pastor Penny had a women's conference last week, and Sunny signed up. She and Brittany, our youth pastor, went up to Charlotte to go to the women's conference. And Pastor Troy said, hey, man, why don't you just come up and we'll just hang out together. Like we'll just spend some time, we'll talk church a little bit, we'll have some good times, we'll get some relationship going so that as you're growing this church in Lawrenceville, I can be a resource for you. You don't have to pay me to do that. Like I'm not stretching myself to do that. I just really want a relationship with you so that I can help you reach people in Gwinnett County. And I was like, well, sure, I'll go. And if you remember Pastor Troy, he's built. Like he's a competitive CrossFitter. He is muscle everywhere. When he takes his shirt off, people notice. And he's also kind of like a semi-professional golfer. Like he competes locally in Charlotte in these local tournaments to get ranked in Charlotte in golf. And so he's kind of an intimidating man for men. Like when you go up next to a guy like that, you're thinking, what am I good at that I could wear on my t-shirt? Because I don't think the one that says every pizza is a personal pizza, if I believe in myself, is going to fly in that kind of an experience. He's probably not going to respect me anymore because I'm wearing that t-shirt. He'll laugh for sure. But he said, hey, why don't you come hang out? And I was like, I'd love to come hang out. So he says, he gets his assistant, and she sends me a little itinerary. He says, hey, we're going to get up in the morning, we're going to work out. I'm thinking, oh, shoot. Because I'm not a competitive CrossFitter. In fact, I've just started running, and every time I run, Gina, the Gazelle Dukes, like laps me around the track of Mulberry Park every time. And if she doesn't, like the bulldozer Andrew, the black bear Schwartz will come at me full speed. Literally, what was it, last week? I'm like doing my jog, thinking, man, I'm so proud of myself for being out here jogging around Mulberry Park. And this bulldozer comes out around the corner. He is going 5 times faster than me with some kind of a plastic thing on his head. I guess you're at triathlon training, or you got your swim cap on, and he is like bulldozing around the corner. And every time I go to Mulberry, my self-esteem gets hit a notch. But that's nothing compared to what I'm going to experience with Troy Maxwell. Going to work out with him. They said, then we'll go play some golf. Well, I haven't played golf in 15 years, and when I did play golf, it was just that one time. And if you know anything about golf, that doesn't really cut it. So I called Pastor Matt. I said, Pastor Matt, do you have some clubs I can borrow and maybe some shoes? He's like, yeah, man, no problem. I'll hook you up. So I'm excited about going to hang out with him, but I'm just not sure that I'm equipped for the experience. Like, I know this is going to be, a resource for me, but I don't feel like I can either work out or play golf or really just hang with him. So thankfully, when I get there, I take the step to go. When I get there, he's like, no, we won't do any of that. We're just going to go go-karting. Well, okay, I can do go-karting. Like I did that when I was a kid in my cul-de-sac at home. We had the little go-kart. We're driving around. He's like, well, it's kind of like that, but not really. Like, you go to this warehouse, and they've got this track set up, and these go-karts go like 45 miles an hour, and you competitively race with the rest of the guys that I'm going to bring, and we've got 8 other guys that are coming. I was like, well, okay, I've never done that before. Have you done that before? And he said, yeah, I've done it probably 10 or 15 times before, which in hindsight, I now know is like 500 laps that he's done in these go-karts. I've done the grand total of goose egg. So again, I'm walking into an experience I'm not prepared for. I think, well, I'll be all right. And he says, oh, and I invited this guy. He's a friend of mine. He works for Hendrick Motorsports. And his job for the last 20 years has been to get the cars that are about to go to race on the NASCAR circuit prepared for the race. So he just takes them around the track to get them ready for the race. So I'm going with a guy who's already done 500 laps. And I'm going with a guy who's for 20 years been racing NASCAR cars. I'm in a little bit of trouble. Right? So we go and we show up at this place, and it's this big, dark, foreboding warehouse. And I'm thinking, man, this is not helping my self-esteem at all. So I go up the steps, and I'm thinking, man, what do I do? Like, I try to channel my inner Eric Timchuk and try to get a little my competitive on, channel my inner Pastor Brittany, that she's the most competitive person I know. And so we're walking up the steps, and I'm thinking I could trip them and like have them fall down. We wouldn't go anymore. It's not the Christian thing to do. So I just poke out my chest a little bit, and I'm like, hey, you guys know second place is just the first loser, right? Like, as we go in, I just want you guys to know ahead of time that I've got this. Like, I'm gonna lap all you guys. I've got this going. Because if you're a man and you've got nothing else, you can just talk game, right? If you got nothing, men who talk game have no game. The loudest guy when you're watching football is the guy who doesn't think his team can win. The other guy's just sitting back going, I'm gonna beat you. So I'm going up to this thing, and I get to the desk, and I'm thinking, maybe I could just say I forgot my wallet or something. He's like, Pastor Troy said, no, man, it's on me. You're my guest. Let me just pay for you. So I'm thinking, that's not going to be a way out. I get the little disclaimer form, and it says, by signing this document, you agree that this is absolutely ridiculous, and no one who cares about their life should ever commit to racing these go-karts. You are risking life, limb, and your pursuit of happiness by signing this thing. Sign the paper. I go down to the track, and they give you this thing that's called the head sock. I've never put a sock on my head before, and I put the sock on my head. Now I'm not only not real confident about my chances of winning this tournament, but I'm also looking like a gnome from The Lord of the Rings. And they give me a helmet. I feel inside the helmet. It's a little damp in the helmet. I'm not sure why the helmet was damp, but it doesn't generate a whole lot of confidence because there's no natural reason for a helmet to be damp. And so I slide the helmet on. It slides on real easily, which is just kind of disgusting. And I'm like, I got this, guys. And then my tongue just hits the front of the helmet like a little, Is it fair to say that sometimes in life you feel unequipped? Is it fair to say sometimes you don't feel like you're prepared for what's in front of you? I don't know what it is for you. It may be your job. It may be your marriage. It may be your kids. It may just be like not having a drink today. That's a real mountain for a lot of people in your world probably. And I don't know what the mountain is for you, but if it's a mountain for you, it's a mountain for you. You know what I mean? Like, if I send Jay and Jen up to Charlotte to hang out with Pastor Troy, they're going to be like, CrossFit, let's do this. That's not a mountain for them, right? But if I go up, that's a mountain for me. Like, how am I going to ever get this going? They say, we're going to race go-karts. I'm thinking, well, I might be okay. I told Pastor Matt today we'd race go-karts. He's like, next time, take me with you. I'll beat them all. It's not a mountain for him, but in terms of self-esteem, it's a mountain for me. I don't know what your mountains look like today, but what I want to help get into you today is an understanding of what those mountains mean in your world and how God wants you to approach them. We've been talking for the last couple of weeks about this For the Win series. And that's what we want for you. We want you to live full life in Jesus. We want you to win. And you can win. The thing is that we're all human beings. And we all have insecurities. And we all have things that hold us back. So I talked to you about this verse in Exodus 6 where it's Genesis is the first book of the Bible. That's where God created man. Second book, Exodus, is where God takes his people out of slavery and into the promises that he has for them. And I told you, like, the first step he takes them through is a process called sanctification. It sounds super holy and everything. It just means set apart. I said, it's just like your china. If you have china at your house that you use for just special occasions. You know, it's not there's anything special about those dishes necessarily. They're just set apart for a special purpose. They're not your daily use dishes. They're special dishes. You only bring them out for the guests when they come over. God has set you apart. He's sanctified you for a special purpose. Second thing I told you last week was that God desires to deliver you. And that means that all of us, whether we're go-karting or whether we're facing an alcoholism problem or we're just facing a problem at work or with our spouse or with our kids, all of us have things that are generating fear, insecurity, concern in our world that we think, man, I would love to live the life that God's calling me to live. I just don't know that I can. God desires to deliver you from that form of mental slavery in your head, believing that you're not who He created you to be, you're who you call yourself to be. But God doesn't call you the same name you call yourself. God believes in you far more than you'll ever believe in yourself. But we walk into these doors, and maybe this is your first time in church. Maybe you've been here for a little while. You walk into these doors and you think, man, I just want to live a better life. Like, I just want some morality to kind of get some balance in my world. I just want some friends that don't want to railroad me off the path. And I want to live a better life. But I come in here and I get all these different ideas about how I'm supposed to live. And Pastor Matt comes up and talks about tithing, giving 10% of my income to the church. Like that, I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't equipped for that. And then I open this Bible and it's like that contract at the go-kart place. Like, it's not just asking me to live a good life. It's not asking me to make some better moral choices. It's asking me to sign a contract that says, your life as you know it is over. And new life is on offer. The God who created you saying, I'm asking you to give me all that you are. Give me your whole life so I can give you the life I planned for you. And every story I read is dangerous. Every story I read is challenging. I don't read any of these stories like the prayers that I pray. God, touch my life. Every time I see God touch a life, the person, you read it, the person falls to the ground as though dead. Like, I was worried about go-karting, but at no point did I fall to the ground as though dead. I was nervous about getting in that thing and racing around that track because it literally looked dangerous. But I wasn't that worried. Yet in my prayers, and maybe you do too, I say, God, would you move in my world? God, if you would just show yourself to, God, if you would just speak into my world, man. When God speaks into your world, it doesn't look like you think it's going to look. Like, it's overwhelming. Every sense in your mind, every sense in your ears, every sense in your body is overwhelmed when God speaks to you. One word from Him will shift your whole world forever. And so today, what I want to do is just convince you that that's not only true, but that that's good news. I want to shift your expectation of God a little bit from thinking that He's just good, from thinking He's just a nice guy, maybe like the Father that you know and you love, to understanding that He's the same God that created the heavens and the earth. And His plan for you is simply overwhelming. So let me read this verse to you out of Exodus 6 as God's taking these people, His people, from slavery into freedom. God tells Moses, He says, therefore say to the Israelites, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. That was our first week. I will bring you out from under the yoke, meaning the bondage. I'll bring you out. Is His first promise. I will free you from being slaves. That's the second promise. He not only removes the burden, He literally sets them free, which is unbelievable to them because they've never been free in any generation that they've ever known. I will free you from being slaves to them. The second promise. 3, I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. That's the third promise that we're going to talk about today. And the fourth promise we'll talk about next week. I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. You see those first two promises up there? Sanctification, meaning getting saved, that's a moment in time. Once you're saved, you're saved. Once you're saved, you're going to heaven. It's not a process by which you get saved. You are saved, and you've crossed over the line, and you're done. There's no need to look back. And when you get released from the slavery of the insecurities and the things that are holding you back, the chains from your past that are holding you, delivered from your past and set into your future, that's a moment in time. It's gone. It's beyond you. It's in your rearview mirror now. You don't need to think about it anymore. But this third promise, I will redeem you. Redemption is an ongoing process in your life where God has set you apart. He set you free, and now he's asking you. You can go any direction you want, but he's asking you, will you follow me? I'm going to read to you the definition of redemption real quick. The definition of redemption out of the dictionary, it's not a biblical definition. This is the definition that the dictionary uses that says redemption. It's a noun that means the action of regaining. Well, it should be a verb, shouldn't it, if it says the action. But anyway, it's a noun. The action of regaining or gaining possession of something in exchange for payment or clearing a debt. The action of regaining or gaining possession of something in exchange for payment or clearing a debt. That's exactly what God did for you. What is redemption? God's regaining of possession of our lives through the payment of his Son. God has redeemed every part of your life, and now he sets you on that starting block. Just like when I was at the go-kart place on Friday night, I went through all this stuff I had been paid for. There was nothing holding me back. I said, I've never done this before. They said, that's okay. You don't have to have ever done this before. My past didn't make any difference. They set me in that cart, they put me on the starting line, and they started the engine. It was a gas-powered engine. Makes it even more nerve-wracking. They started the engine, they said, okay, are you ready to go? And I said, I'm not ready to go at all. No, I'm not ready, even a little bit. They said, it goes 45 miles an hour, you need to be ready to go. I said, I'm still not ready. Just give me another minute. I take the little visor down like I'm cool, and I'm getting ready to go. And I want you to know today, if you've given your life to God and that's where you're at, and you don't skip that second step, if you've gotten rid of all that stuff from your past, if you said, God, deliver me from all that insecurity about who I used to be. If you haven't, man, we've got opportunities for you through Develop and through our Connect system. Get involved in this place so we can help you get delivered of those things so you can be released into the future that God designed you to live. But if you're on this starting block with us today, I want you to get ready because there's a future available to you. And God calls it a future that's more abundant, a life that's more abundant than anything you ever knew before. And that's the truth. But sometimes we settle for less. And I don't want one person to settle for less today. Redemption means that God has set you apart. He's brought you to this place where you're free to now go into the future he has for you. So why do we need it? Why do we need redemption? Chris Hodges says this. It's a great quote, so I put it up on the screen this morning. Chris Hodges says, if the devil can't keep you out of heaven, then he'd at least like you to be ineffective in the meantime. We need redemption because God has a plan for our life, and the plan involves us. The plan involves us doing what we've been called to do. But so many of us stop short. We get to the starting line, we get in the car, but we never push the gas. We never go on the trip that God has for us. We do what the Israelites did. You know what they did? They got to freedom, and they asked Moses, can we go back now? We're not used to this. This is uncomfortable. We just want to go back and live the life that everybody else is living, the life we've always known. We don't want a new life. But God's promise for you, listen, is not the same life you had before. If you got to the starting line, if you raised your hand in church one day and you asked God to forgive you and give you new life and you went back and you didn't change anything, then you missed the moment. And that's okay. You're still redeemed. but you're sitting in the cart on the starting line and the engine's going and you just haven't hit the gas yet. Today, I want you to hit the gas. I don't care who you are or how long you've been a part of this church or any church. Every person in every seat today has the opportunity today to go farther than you've ever been before, but you've got to push the gas. You've got to understand this thing, not just in your head, but in your heart. You know, if you know me at all, you know I go to Starbucks all the time. At least once a day, probably, I go to Starbucks and get a coffee, just a black coffee. But if you go to Starbucks enough times and you use their little app, you know, after about 10 coffees, you get a free coffee. And it says you've got a reward, free coffee. So I'll save them up. When I want to go get a really good coffee, like when I want to get an expensive coffee, I'll go use my app and I'll get a free coffee. And so I go to the counter, and every other time I go to the counter, I have to pay. But when I want to redeem my reward, I just go to the counter and I say, and I just say whatever I want. Double tall, triple, espresso, grande, max with free refills. They say, okay, that'll be $27.95. I go, no. I'd like to redeem my coupon. Beep. Okay, here it is, yours. I don't at that point go back to the counter and go, hey, could I have a sip of my drink now? They're like, of course you can, it's yours. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I could have a sip because I really wanted to try it, so I'm gonna have a sip and I'll just leave it there. They're like, you can have it. No, you don't understand. I don't deserve it. Like I normally would have to pay for it, but I know I redeemed the thing, but I just want to make sure you're good. Are you guys still good? Can I have another sip? Is that cool with you? Can I take another sip of my triple grande espresso latte? I just get black coffee, so I don't know what they're called. If I do that at Starbucks, they'll call the police. Because something's wrong with my mind. Because I've already redeemed my coupon, it's free. They'll just keep pushing and going, it's yours, please take it and please go home. And we believe that Starbucks is like that, right? There's not one person going, no, you need to keep asking. Like, don't leave that place with that coffee. They will take you down. They will tackle you in the parking lot. No, when you redeem the thing, you're free to take the coffee and go. We believe that Starbucks is that good, but I find in my experience that a lot of times we don't believe God is that good. We go, well, God, I know I'm redeemed, but God, if you would just bless me. This is how we know that God loves us. He first gave. He didn't give so that you could keep asking. He gave so that you would have every blessing available in Jesus right now. God has already given you everything you need to live a life committed to Him. He's already given it to you. But I find when I talk to people, and I find a lot of times when I look at my own life, I'm waiting for God to give it to me. Like, God, can I please have it? He's going, you have it. But God, you don't understand, I really need a coffee. It's right on the counter. Just take it and go. Like, don't take it and stay. Take it and go and do what I've called you to do. But God, you don't understand, like it's an expense, it's like this kind of freedom is a big deal. You don't understand, God, you don't know what I've done in the past. You see, well, no, you don't understand that I was there when you did it. Just because you didn't know me and you didn't see me there doesn't mean I don't know. I know, and listen, it's been paid for. It's done. Now go and do what I've asked you to do. You don't understand, God. Wait a minute, before I go and do any things you asked me to do, you don't understand, I'm not sure that I'm equipped to do the things that you called me to do. Of course you're not equipped to do the things I've called you to do. If you read the Bible, it never says you're equipped to do the things I've called you to do. Your expectation needs to shift to understanding that the future I'm calling you to live isn't a future that you'll live by your wisdom or by your intelligence or by your might or the power that's already on the inside of you. The strength you're going to get to live the life I've called you to live is going to come from me. Because that's the way I designed it to work. But I hear people saying all the time, and me too. They go, well, I wasn't sure what to do, but this just seemed easy, so it must have been God. I don't know what Bible you're reading, but every time I see people working in the plan and purpose of God for their life, I never see the word easy anywhere. I actually think the devil's the one who wants to make it easy for you. God's the one who wants to challenge you because he believes that you can rise to the challenge. I love what Chris Hodges said. He said the devil's the one who, if he can't keep you out of heaven. You've already been sanctified. You've already been saved. Nothing can separate you. The chains are broken. You're set free. You're going to go to heaven. God just doesn't want you to wait for the blessing. He's got the latte on the counter. It's just getting cold. Like you've redeemed the coupon. Come on now, take it. Take the life that he's given you to live. If Pastor Joe can get up here on a Sunday morning and say, listen, I've been here for 15 years. I've been the worship pastor for 10. I lead you every Sunday in worship. And last year at the women's conference, I got set free to a new level of fullness in Jesus. If she can do that, then I know there's more for me too. I know there's more available to me. Girls, if you're thinking maybe I should, I don't know. I'm not confident that this is, listen, this women's conference is not so that we can make any money. We won't make any money off of this women's conference. We do these things so that you can experience full life in Jesus, because our mission is to invite everyone in our influence, and you're in our influence, to experience full life in Jesus. But everyone else, most of the people you know, the majority of the people at your workplace, probably most of the people in your family, are living a different kind of life. And you can't look to them for a standard of living because they're still in slavery. They're still living opposed to the plan and purpose of God for their life. You've got to raise your eyes to a different level of living, a different level of understanding. The last thing I want you to understand is how you can exercise this redemption, how you can do what God's calling you to do, how you can be who he's calling you to be. How will we exercise it? You have to discover and build upon the amazing truth of our creation. Let me read this scripture to you, then I'll be just about done. In 2 Peter chapter 1, I love this out of the Message translation. 2 Peter chapter 1 says this. Peter tells the church, don't lose a minute in building on what you've been given. Complementing your basic faith with good character, spiritual understanding, alert discipline, I love this, passionate patience, reverent wonder, warm friendliness, and generous love, each dimension fitting into and developing the others. With these qualities active and growing in your lives, no grass will grow under your feet. No day will pass without its reward as you mature in your experience of our Master Jesus. Without these qualities, listen to this, without these qualities, you can't see what's right before you. Oblivious that your old sinful life has been wiped off the books. Listen, Peter here, man, he's the living example. He's like, I've been there, I've done that. Take my word for it. Without these qualities, you're just oblivious. Without these qualities, you just can't see what's right in front of you until you understand that you're set apart. Until you stop, when you look in that rearview mirror of all the things that have happened to you, all the things that might hold you back, all the issues and troubles of your life. When you look in the rearview mirror, you just simply cannot be looking forward at the same time. God wants you to rip that rearview mirror off of your world and throw it out the window and begin to look forward at all that he has for you. And don't for 1 minute disparage God by believing that the future he has for you is anything less than the best you could imagine. I'll challenge you every day to believe the best in what God has for each and every one of you. Because as I read his word, what he says is that he loves you, that he's redeemed you for a purpose, and that purpose is that everyone you know, everyone you meet, everyone you might have any kind of influence over, everyone that sees you, in seeing you, would recognize the glory of God on your life. He doesn't want to bless you just so that you can be blessed. He wants you to bless you. He wants to bless you so that you can be a living testimony, a light shining in every place you go of his goodness. So how could it be anything less than what he says that it is? A life, and a life more abundant. If his goal is, if God's goal is, and that's what he says it is that when you get around people, his life, your living, is so undeniably attractive that every person you meet will want what you have. They'll just be blind on how to get it. Take the blinders off this morning. You've got a reward on your phone. Just ask him today. It's free. Say, God, would you give me the very best that you have for me? Would you help me to live this life for you? And I want to tell you, I don't care how good or bad you feel. I don't care how good or bad you've been. This truth is for you. If our worship pastor of 15 years can find new levels in Jesus by taking an opportunity to step apart from everything she normally does and step into a women's conference that just shifts her expectations a little, if she can find full life in that moment, how much more can we find full life in that very same place? Ladies, I'm telling you, it's not if you should sign up. It's, hey, sign up in the lobby, sign up on the website after this. It's not so that I can be blessed. It's because I believe that when Sunny and I get to heaven and we stand before God in that moment, he's going to look in our eyes and he's going to say, I'm glad you're here. Now just let me ask you a question. Did you get Gina Dukes to full life in me? Did you get Maria Roman to full life? Remember, I brought those people into your influence. Did you get Anna Glenn to full life? And I wanted that moment to be able to say, God, I did everything that I could to open their eyes to all that you have for them. Not because I'm better than anyone in the room. I certainly am not. I can't even drive a go-kart. But it's simply that God's called me to invite you every time I have influence to a full life in him. And the maturest Christians among you will understand that you haven't arrived there yet. The wisest, smartest will realize there's so much further to go. So walk out of here knowing that that plan for you, God's plan for you, starts right here, right now, today. Let's close our